Hi, I'm Stuart Ewing of the Ewings of Gwinnett. I'm a Scotch-Irish historian and genealogist based in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I've been around the world, but one of my favorite places is the homeland of my ancestors, Kilfinan, on the west coast of Argyll, Scotland. Today I'm going to take you on a hike to the legendary ruins of Castle Ewen on the shores of Loch Fyne. Prepare yourself for a few surprises along the way. We're going to be starting at the famous Kilfinan Hotel, historic for being the place that Lord Louis Mountbatten, the Chief of Combined Operations Command, brought his staff to prepare for the D-Day landings. The hotel has been welcoming guests for over 3 centuries, originally serving as a coaching inn for travelers taking in the sights around the Coal Peninsula. More recently, the hotel has been the host for countless Ewings and McEwens making their pilgrimage to tour the ruins of the famous Castle Ewen, the traditional homeland for these families. If you are a Ewing or McEwen descendant, I highly recommend you plan to stay here. Even if you're not able to make the hike to the castle, I can assure you that the stay here will be worth it. The rooms are first rate and have the feel of a historic Scottish inn. The food is world class. There is a lounge area, and I'm sure your stay will be a time to be remembered. If you're a Ewing or McEwen, please sign the book kept on the shelf in the main hallway. Take the time to review past visitors. Many of these may be your cousins. Be aware that the hike will take a full hour or more, depending on your level of fitness. Most of the trip to the castle ruins will be a gradual downhill slope, but there will be some short, steep uphill moments. Also, be aware that if we travel an hour downhill, the return trip will be a gradual uphill hike, so you'll want to bring some water, comfortable clothes, shoes that can handle a lot of mud, and about 2.5 hours of free time. From the front of the hotel, we're going to begin our hike by walking north along the B8000, the single-lane road that passes in front. This is an outstanding opportunity to take in the quiet, natural, and pastoral environment surrounding Kilfinan. For the sake of time, I'll be fast-forwarding through some of the long stretches so that this video will be along 45 minutes. But don't let this fool you. The hike is definitely an hour or more in length just to get there, and perhaps a little more to get back. Along the way, I'll pause occasionally to catch a glimpse of berries like these blackberries, flowers, ivy, ferns, and even some common hawthorn. Be aware that along the B8000 you may have cars that pass by. The B8000 is the main thoroughfare in this area, even though it's single lane. Drivers will likely be locals, with an occasional tourist. They're just accustomed to the obstacles on the road, including the occasional animal or hiker. Just keep to the side and you'll be fine. Of course, before I get started too far, I'm a real sucker for a lovely stream. I recommend you take a few moments to enjoy the lovely sights and sounds of this stream known as Kilfinan Burn. As we continue our hike, we have a brief climb up a hill, and then we can enjoy an area of ferns beneath the various maple poplar trees on our left. To our right, we have a beautiful pasture land, which also hosts sheep and cattle. Near the top of this climb, we approach an area that reminds me of the big oak tree at Bag End in Hobbiton of J.R.R. Tolkien's beloved stories. I almost want to look for Bilbo's hobbit hole beneath the tree. Instead, we get our first view of the lovely Loch Fyne, which we will be seeing a lot of as our hike progresses. To the right, you can see the home of Sean McEwen and the headquarters of Clan McEwen of Scotland. Mind you, this is not to be confused with Clan Ewing, which has now been designated and accepted by the Lord Lion of Scotland as a separate clan, but that's a story for another day. As we continue, you see a driveway that leads to Sean's house on the right. On the left, we see patches of common hawthorn bushes, complete with berries. This plant is common in both the United States and in Europe. The berries are edible, but in this area they're usually used for jams and pies. Then on the left, we'll come to a road with a small sign that says Fearnock and Tailend. These are two bed and breakfast rental homes that we'll walk past shortly. We'll turn left down this road and leave the B8000 behind for now. As we approach a sharp right-hand curve, I'm struck by the large number of rhododendrons in the evergreen wood on the right. The rhododendron is a typical backwoods shrub native to Georgia, and I cannot overlook the similarities I find between the woods here and back home. It reminds me that the Scots-Irish may have noticed such similarities as they migrated to the New World and the Appalachian Mountains where they settled. As we just passed a small tail-end cottage further back on the left and a sharp left-hand curve and another small cottage on the right with a water wheel, we're now approaching Fear Not Cottage ahead, and you can see we have progressed into the next step of our hike. After passing Fear Not, we'll be making a hard left again to begin the most challenging parts of our hike that enters the pastures and then the long walk down to the shores of Loch Fyne. Before going much further, I'll take a moment to say hello to a handful of cows watching us go by. They don't seem impressed with us for some reason. As we begin this more challenging section, we approach our first gate into pasture land. As we enter, I cannot stress enough the importance of leaving the gate as you find it. If the gate is closed, make doubly sure to close it and secure it behind you. If the gate is open, it is likely that the owner meant for it to remain open for sheep and cattle to pass through. After a short walk, we approach a left turn and a second gate. After that, you'll see the reason for preparing for mud. The mud comes and goes with the rain. At different times of the year, the mud bogs will be better or worse, and will be in different places. Therefore, keep in mind that this route may be adjusted from time to time to account for such obstacles. Now we are going down a long pasture road and a fence line down to the shore of Loch Fyne. Along the way, we pause to inspect a small thistle blossom. This thistle is the national flower of Scotland. However, there is a larger variety used for that symbol. As we progress through this pasture, it's very likely you'll encounter cattle, and there may be a bull. We were told that there's a white bull in one of the herds that doesn't like people, but the others are fine. They'll likely just watch you pass by as they're accustomed to visitors. If there's a bull, it will likely place itself somewhere between you and the cows, but will also likely just watch. If a bull were to challenge you, the best solution would be to try to get to the other side of a rock fence or to keep your distance, but that likely won't happen. As we approach the fence at the shoreline, you'll likely leave the cattle behind, but it's possible that the farmers may turn them out along the shoreline as well. The main thing is to not disturb the situation. If there are cattle, leave them alone. If you open a gate, close and secure it. If that gate is already open, leave it. As we walk out on the beach, you may notice that there really is no sand, but rather pebbles mixed with shells. Still, this can be uncomfortable to walk on, so you may find the walking easier away from the water or near the water. The choice is yours. You will also find a great deal of dead kelp, a type of seaweed. There are places in the world where kelp is harvested for food. My daughter even has a hot sauce at home made from a variety of kelp. Along the way, we also find a dead jellyfish, quite large as you can see by comparison with my foot. By this map, you can see our progress on this last segment of the trip. We will soon be leaving the beach, going inland for a bit, and then approach the castle ruin from the rear. To give you an idea of how the route to the castle can change over the time, in 2023 I was given a tour by Sean McEwen, and he took me over the rocky point to the left. However, my daughter and wife, who came in July of 2025, was taken a different way, and that is the way that I'm showing in this video. Here we pass through another gate, noting the Ewen Castle sign above, and then proceed on through another muddy path. Here you briefly see my daughter again as she leads for a while. After a while we come to a clearing where some remnants of farm equipment have been left on the side. Turning right along the path we come to an insurmountable hill due to the mud. So seeing the destination is just another pasture at the top of the hill, I opt to take a side path that is not muddy just to the left. I reach the top of the hill and find myself in another pasture with a couple of cows. My daughter directs me to follow the pasture to the next tree line on the left. The pasture is muddy with many springs present. It's interesting to note that when the Scotch-Irish first settled the New World in the early 1700s, they sought out and settled in very similar land to this. Here my daughter points out through a tree line our first view of the hill with the castle ruins. I still cannot make out any details, but I can only see a patch of green. We continue to follow what seems to be a beaten path, perhaps by cattle or people. When approaching some of the springs, I try to stay on patches of grass or rocks that are dry with mixed success. You need to just be prepared that your shoes will get wet and muddy in some places. After we progress through the muddy pasture about 100 feet, we can see a beach in the distance on the left, which I know is at the foot of the Castle Ewens because I've been there before. We could walk to the beach and then approach the castle from there, but not knowing how the land has changed, I opt to follow my daughter's lead and proceed past to the next tree line. After a bit of uncertainty, my daughter takes the lead past another spring and continues to lead me up the hill beyond the tree line. After passing the tree line, we turn left alongside it, and we get our first glimpse at the cairn or monument set up by the McEwen family back in the 1970s. At this point, we walk straight to it, and the path will be evident. Along the way, we will pass patches of wild thyme on the left, and we'll have beautiful views of the loch to the right. As we finally get to Castle Hill, we see the remnants of signs. I can barely make out the original content on the signs as being this picture of the castle's appearance when it was still in use. What remains, though, is simply the ruins of walls and 3 buildings. From a point closest to the lock, this picture makes a lot of sense, and you can just make out the ruins where everything was. The first thing that strikes you is that it's not a castle at all, not in the way we would normally picture a castle. There are no high ramparts, no keep, no bigger buildings like we think of from the movies. This castle is not to be compared with castles like Stirling and Edinburgh. Those are from much later periods. This castle was a home, an Iron Age and Bronze Age fortress, and it was commonly called a dun or a motte. It had a low rock base topped with wooden walls and then interior buildings. Outside of the walls, there may have been additional houses or quarters. There may have even been a settlement at the base. An archaeological dig in the late 1960s resulted in a 12th century crucifix being found, along with pottery shards from the 1200s and other artifacts as late as the 1700s. There are all kinds of stories about this castle and how the Ewen clan lost it, but the fact is, after the castle was held by Clan Ewen from the 1200s through the early 1400s, specifically in the year 1432, the chief Sven MacEwen of Otter surrendered his barony to King James I, who re-granted it with a destination to Celestin Campbell in the event that Sven should die without an heir. There may also have been a marriage between a Ewen and a Campbell involved. When Sven died in 1493, both lands passed to a branch of Clan Campbell, along with both castles. Both castles, you say? Yes, there were 2 castles. When I was given a tour of the castle in 2023, Sean MacEwen pointed out that in fact, this is not the only castle that belonged to the Ewing clan in the area, but the second of 2. Yes, 2 Ewing castles. This one is more well known because it's near the hotel and can be easily walked. However, writings of that era and periods following referred to Castle Ewen at Otter Point. This castle is not at Otter Point. So where is that other castle? Well, I'll take you there in part 2 of this video. So I hope you've enjoyed this hike together. To my knowledge, this is the first time the hike has been recorded on video. Be aware that weather, wear and tear on the path, and the relationship with the landowners may cause this route to change from time to time. When in doubt, you may ask at the hotel to reach out to Sean to see if he's available for a tour. You might also check with me in advance, as I plan to visit every couple of years. If I'm ever around, I'd be happy to show you the castles as well. But most of the time, if you follow the guidelines of these videos and use common sense, you'll be just fine.